Hey everybody, Nick here with another edition of Killing for Sport podcast, the podcast for everything horror movies, B movies, you name it. We are here for episode 4, The Gate, and I'm joined by by my co-host, Logan. How's it going, Logan?
Pretty good. Spent all day watching WWE 2K glitches, so I'm ready for the podcast.
Bang bang! And then also, Kevin. How's it going, Kevin?
I kind of feel like shit there, Nick. I've been up since 3:30 this morning, but I'm going to power through, and hopefully this will be a lot of fun. I expect it will.
And last but not least, was sorely missed in the last episode, which might be lost, might be unlost, I don't know. Charles!
Hello, everyone. I am back. I gotta say, I think the Langoliers would have been the better choice, but The Gate is a childhood favorite, so I am excited to talk about it.
And I, again, have never seen the Langoliers. Didn't know it existed.
We gotta make it happen, though.
I feel like we unfortunately have to bump this up the list now.
You know, I might have to change Sleepaway Camp 2 to the Langoliers.
Langoliers, I'm down for that.
I really don't want to watch that again, but I'll do it for the podcast.
I think it would be the funniest show yet.
All 3 hours of it.
Oh, it's 3
Oh
hours.
God.
Yeah, it's 3 hours.
Hey, I'm ready to compare this to a WrestleMania marathon.
Oh, man. After doing 13 shows of WrestleMania, or indie shows WrestleMania weekend, I don't know that I could do 3 hours. I get mentally exhausted just watching wrestling on TV. I don't know that I could watch 3 hours of some shitty movie. Anywho, we'll get things started. So, Charles, you want to start us off?
Okay, The Gate. So, we open up with this kid riding his bike named Glenn. He's played by Steven Dorff. This is his debut role, actually. He played Deacon Frost, the bad guy in Blade.
Wasn't he in Gargoyles as well?
He was.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Was he in Gargoyles?
I don't think he was. I know he was in a couple of blue e-cig commercials, but other than that, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that Steven Dorff has been in. I know he
was in
a career, but
Cecil B. Demented, which is a John Waters film.
Oh, yeah.
Saw part of it, but I haven't. It's pretty good, I've heard. But
yeah, I haven't. That's one of the few John Waters films I haven't seen.
I haven't seen any John Waters films. So.
God damn it, Nick!
You wouldn't be able to tell that's the same person either, comparing him from Blade or the John Waters film to this movie. Blade. I wouldn't have been able to. I wouldn't have known that.
You know, to me, Blade is only known for the opening music. Which is also featured on a lot of Newgrounds Flash animations.
It's
that were parodied
it's
Mario,
yeah.
But yeah,
it's known for a lot of like really good choreographed fight scenes. But anyway,
a joke.
I do look forward to the reboot, but that's neither here nor there.
Is
yeah.
Oh yeah, Mahershala Ali.
Yeah.
Is Blade considered a horror movie?
I mean, it was. Well, the second one was Guillermo del Toro directed it, so I mean, that's close.
Yeah, it's action horror, I'd say. Action before horror.
I mean, it was on the Sci-Fi Channel at one time, so I'd consider it.
Yeah.
A quick sidebar, it looks like Steven Dorff was in a 2017 film called Leatherface.
Oh,
which...
Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
No.
So it may have been direct-to-video or something. I don't know. Anyway, we're getting way...
No, that's fine. The sort of side combos are good. Just
there is absolutely nothing wrong with side comments because that's all I make during this podcast.
Getting used to it. All right, so little Steven Dorff playing Glenn is riding through suburbia. He goes up to his house and no one's there. It's all alone. It's very hazy inside, and there's a dinner table. It appears people were eating on it. There's all this roast beef and these like sauce packet things open and plates and whatnot, and suddenly the back door opens. Then it just becomes nighttime, and there's a some kind of doll talking in the tree saying "Mama, Mama," and lightning strikes the tree. It falls. He wakes up from a nightmare, but he sees that the tree actually did fall for real. Him and his friend Terry, they start digging where the hole is, where the well, there's this big hole where the tree was, and they start sort of digging it up to find a geode or a thunder egg, as Terry says. It's worth money. Wanted to talk about Terry. He's played by Louis Tripp. He's this kind of geeky metalhead kid.
Terry is like my spirit animal from back when I was that age.
Yeah.
Kind of a badass, and apparently his parents were awesome, or at least his dad. I don't know. Like, I mean, obviously, we'll find out later that his mom wasn't exactly around, but you know, apparently his dad was like a metal vinyl collector. That so you know,
Right.
good on Terry's parent or dad anyway. But
His two dads.
Question:
Yo.
was Glenn wearing like a space camp like jacket?
Yeah, Nick was talking all about that. What do you think, Nick?
It definitely looked like some space camp shit. I'll say that.
Like it looked like logos from like Nickelodeon. Like you could win space camp here on Nickelodeon Arcade.
Well, he always talked about he loved rockets.
you know what? That tracks.
They always mention the rockets. They actually play a big role, crucial role.
And you know what was surprising is at this point there are no random number T-shirts.
Oh no, we're not even in that. So like,
Well, when he opened in his dream, didn't he have a number shirt on? Because I wrote it down in my notes.
yes, he did. He did in the dream. He did.
You're right.
Yeah. And then shortly here in a minute, the girl will be wearing one.
Okay, these number T-shirt things. I don't know why it has such an impact on you guys. Like, again, we mentioned this in the pre-show conversation. I don't know what. Like, I grew up in the '80s, and I don't really remember this being a thing. So maybe it's just like blending into the scenery for me. But
I think that's what it is. So in the past, 2 movies that we've watched with Sleepaway Camp and The Gate, anything that has to do with kids, they're all wearing random number shirts. Whether it's 00,
One was 69.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. By the way, do you remember? So back actually in the dream, I glossed over this just for a second. Do you remember when he's looking at the table, but then he looks at the TV, and there's like this weird music video. It shows like someone pulling out their eyes and putting it in like a cauldron or whatever. What was that? Was that filmed for the movie, or is that a real song?
It might have been what they did for Home Alone, where that movie actually looks real, and then it ends up just being made.
Right.
Never was an actual movie. Yeah.
I have to like get the lyrics to that song, see if it's real.
so I will put it this way: it very well could be made direct for the movie because the director did have some ins with like the Toronto punk scene, apparently.
Okay.
Believe it or not. So he like had some musical ties to some artists, and obviously he had some directing chops. So I assume he probably threw it in there himself. And that is a total guess. I didn't do any research on it, but
Yeah, I think it would be made probably for the movie. Yeah, speaking of the director, I guess we should rewind real quick and just do the sort of behind the scenes stuff. The director is Tibor Takakis. And I only know that because I heard the commentary for the movie. Otherwise, I never knew how to say his name. And this movie, I
Is he a reptile? Because that sounds like a name a reptile would have.
think he's Hungarian.
no, he's Hungarian. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so,
same, right? No, I'm kidding. Sorry, Hungarian people who might be listening.
there's this movie called Ishtar, which was this like famous bomb with Dustin Hoffman and Warren Beatty,
Wow.
and it was this horrible comedy, and it barely beat this film, which is like a low budget unknown horror film.
Right.
Yeah, and,
They were released the same weekend, May 15th, 1987, and
right.
Ishtar beat it by less than $100,000 at the box office the first week.
Which is a failure. All right, so as they're back to the movie, as they're digging Terry and Glenn, they do find this big geode, and then Glenn gets like this pretty big gnarly splinter in his hand, and he pulls it out, and it's a little bit bloody. He just drops it in the hole. As soon as he does that, we hear some really weird squealing noises, and they just kind of wonder what it is, but then they dismiss it because this geode's going to give him apparently $100, according to Terry. First sign that something really is wrong about this hole, besides experiencing the same thing in a dream.
So at this point, has it been? I don't know if it's been brought up yet. There is the parents have left for the weekend.
No, this goes right up to the cheese.
Okay, so they haven't left yet. Got it. Okay.
No. That's when Glenn's dad sees the hole in there.
Right. Asks them to fill the hole back in. Right.
Yeah, and Glenn's scared, and then he explains that Terry says something about there's a worker that died building that
workman.
house. Yeah, workman, and that plays a crucial role much later. Just marking that down. But easy scene that they just like exposition, I guess they have to do just to get the parents out of the movie. They're mad that Glenn dug up the hole, so they're wondering if they should just get a babysitter, and then finally they leave, and then they say no parties. Cut to the very next cut, they're having a party.
Of course.
You know what I found interesting is that the dad was like the most like stereotypical. I only married your mom because I knocked her up kind of guy.
Yeah, I just kind of thought him as like quintessential like throwaway. I don't know, like suburban middle class parent tropes, I guess, if that's a thing.
I gotta go do some coke off my secretary's ass.
Yeah, they're probably going to Jamaica for like a swingers retreat. I don't know.
Hedonism. #hedonism.
So, yeah, it's worth mentioning. So, okay, so we see I guess the most '80s looking party because
Kevin, did people actually
they
dress
have
up
some
like
of the
this?
worst.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Did people actually dress like this?
Oh, sure.
I mean, oh my god.
I'm sure they did. Like I when this movie came out, I was 7, and I probably dressed like that.
Yeah. And it's. I know we talked a little bit about this with Sleepaway Camp, but here it's even because they're supposed to be, I guess, formal or something, and you see some of the weirdest things they got.
Well, I don't see any guys wearing super cut off jeans and fishnets.
That's summer camp, yeah.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying. So this in terms of clothing, I would say this is a step up.
Oh yeah, I would say so too. It's just I guess they're like supposed to be semi-formal looking too.
So going forward, I'm going to judge the clothing in the movie.
I think every '80s movie we watch, we're probably always going to judge the clothing. I feel like,
but even '90s and 2000 had really weird attire.
Did yeah, a lot of '90s aesthetic was not attractive. So partying. Glenn and Terry are just basically imprisoned in their room. I remember experiencing that as a kid when my brother would have friends over. That's the other thing too. This film like speaks to you like as a kid. I mean, it's made for kids, kind of like preteens, I think.
Yeah, you know what? I think that the target demographic is probably like 11 years old.
And that's the thing too. That this movie scared me more than any Friday the 13th, Freddy, Halloween. This movie actually scared me, and it's like this PG-13 horror film that really isn't that violent. And
Really? No.
Yeah, The Gate
nobody
for
really
me
died.
has been the
There's no body
scariest
count.
movie that I have seen for this review or for this podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm
Scarier
going
than
to disagree
Candyman.
with you there, but we've
say
got so much
Candyman.
more movie to talk to about here.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, they're stuck up in their room, in Glenn's room, and they're trying to break the geode. And eventually, Glenn just bashes in. It cracks right open, and all this steam comes out, all this purple light, and it sort of like one of the pieces just kind of comes apart by itself, and then on this sort of notepad thing, they find some kind of like symbols, and there's like words with Latin characters, and they read the words aloud, and they seem to have some sort of effect. We don't quite know yet, but it's after they read them, the dog even gets a little scared, and then we cut to the hole, and there's a lot of haze coming out of the hole. So we assume it has something. Sounds ominous. It's something like "Crutal Alamita" is what the notepad says, if I remember. But yeah, later on, so some kind of ominous passage, I guess. But they go downstairs, and now they're like telling scary stories at the party. I mean, that is way too big of a party to just have for people to focus all their attention onto just one guy just telling scary stories. I've never seen something quite like that, except for maybe if you're in like a group of about, I don't know, 6-7 people, you're gonna stop and tell scary stories, but not like a living room full of like overcrowded full of people. But
It's like a weird cult circle.
yeah, it was.
I mean, this is still part of that party, so
yeah.
I mean, I think it might just be like a section of the party that's decided they're gonna do some spooky shit, I guess.
Yeah, like a party within a party kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
there's different parties in different rooms. Sure.
I mean, honestly, it looked to me like at this point in the party, I think a lot of the people had left. So I think at this point,
After party. Yeah,
that's
true. So then they do this levitation thing, and they notice Glenn's downstairs, so they try to levitate Glenn, and it appears that it actually works, and he starts floating up in the air, and I don't know if they actually like saw him doing it, but he was floating up, and he grabbed the light, and then it broke. And the thing is, one of the guys who's helping him, or who's like helping levitate Glenn, later on says, hey, it's just an illusion, but he literally floated off their hands.
yeah.
So I don't know how how that guy didn't notice that, or something.
A bunch of dumb teenagers, right? Like,
Drunk.
I don't
maybe.
know.
Yeah. So
Maybe they were hallucinating because they were on drugs.
yeah, hallucinating that Glenn floated up in the air.
Yeah, so they didn't think it was real.
Oh, I see. So, I don't know. What do we got here? They go up. I mean, the party. They leave, and then
I think they just go to bed after this, basically, right?
right.
And
right.
then I guess I guess it's Terry wakes up in the middle of the night
right.
and wanders downstairs. I can't remember exactly why he wandered downstairs.
He heard his name.
Oh, right.
Yes.
He was being called.
by his mother.
Who it has been
That's
established.
right.
I alluded to it earlier, but she's dead.
Maybe
Yeah.
she,
It was explained.
She rocked out too hard.
It was I mean, one can only hope. It's the way to go. But
Yeah, it was the metal.
so it was explained earlier that that Terry maybe just telling the scary stories like the workman to
right.
crap, I just forgot Steven Dorff's character's name. In any but yeah.
Deacon.
So he was
Oh.
but anyway, no, it was basically discussed that his mom's died, so
Glenn?
his
Glenn.
mom had died. Glenn, thank you. So so Terry's mom had died. So the reason that he was telling those stories was because he was trying to, I don't know, that was how he reacted to his mom's death,
Yeah.
which
Something like
may be true. I don't know, but Terry was definitely onto some shit here.
Acting out. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, so and it's really creepy the way she talks to him, but he I mean he seems what would you excited? I wouldn't say excited, he's shocked, but he's also
sure. I mean, well, it's also the middle of the night, so he was kind of almost, I think, trance-like in a way.
Did you not die from that cocaine overdose?
and he like embraces her. So
And then they embrace, and it's kind of a neat little reunion scene, and then the camera pans out,
Dude,
and
I'm gonna be
there's a
honest.
penis.
This yeah, there was a penis.
I actually did think of Sleepaway Camp when this happened.
So for me,
well, wait, what happened though? It was the dead dog.
correct,
Right.
Angus.
this was creepy as fuck. This whole scene right here was just creepy.
Yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't a live dog, by the way. Angus was dead at this point, so he drops him. Angus is dead on the floor.
Right.
Realizes he's hugging a dog, and then
So
He is-
okay, it's a dead dog.
When Terry goes to take a piss, you could see Angus lying next to the door. Dead thing.
So what does that mean? The dog was already dead.
Well,
I mean, probably, maybe not.
I don't know. When you get towards the end of the movie, Angus is back alive, so I don't know.
Right. So
Is it a hallucination? Is it part of the whole thing? Yeah, spoilers. Sorry, by the way, but you know,
it is part of the whole thing. I do. I'll have something to. I'll save that for the end. But same time, Glenn is in his room and like he's seeing the wall like move. Isn't that when that happened?
right? I think so.
Yeah.
Because
The
he's
wall-
he's convinced that the workman is there, and
It-
because of that
something-
story that Terry told him
Something.
earlier. But
Like the wall
I
is
think-
protruding outwards as something's like crawling up and down. Then the dog business happens.
right. And then, of course, after the dog business happens, Terry yells, and then everybody comes downstairs to see what's going on. And at this point, it's just like, oh crap! Oh, Angus is dead. We got to bury him.
Right, they're trying to figure out what to do. I think his sister wants to leave to go to the beach or something, and she feels guilty. But
Right. So I believe she cancels on the beach, and I think she
Yeah.
hired or like had a friend of hers do the quote dirty work of burying the dog.
yeah,
And-
so then there's this. We get to a scene with Terry. He's rocking out and he's jamming on his bed to this like kick-ass metal music, and then he comes
So is
to
this-
this like, huh?
Is this before or after they've disposed of the dog in the
This is-
hole?
This is right before it, because the boyfriend volunteers to take the dog, and it turns out he can't find a place to put it. But then it shows what happens next. Like after Terry here, he discovers through the record album, he starts putting two and two together somehow that the whole is connected.
Well, there was a whole thing in one of the metal record that he's like singing along, and pantomiming along, and then there's the spoken word part, and it's just like, now hold on, this all seems to check out.
Yes,
Like it all
like some kind of solo thing where it goes, before the sun, before the stars and the darkness, the rightful leaders behind the gate are jealous. Something like that. It's like a realization on screen that.
Oh, sure. And then he starts going through like the liner notes and reading through stuff, and it's like all clicking for him all at once.
Right, yeah. And at this same time, Glenn finds that the hole came, like, opened back up by itself, and then he shows Terry, and then Terry says, in a famous line, he says, You got demons. Yeah.
I am so glad that I was not the only one who thinks that this has got to be the 100% line of the movie.
Yeah.
You got demons.
Right. So he has Glenn come over, and he's like connecting all the dots for Glenn. He's showing him he has this album called Sacrifix, which is, I guess, a metal band that got their lyrics from this thing called the Dark Book, which was talking all about demons.
And they only had one album, the one album that they were listening to, and they all died in a plane crash or something. And
yes, and he said his dad got it from Europe. His dad,
of course, Europe.
Yeah, and it talks about, like, because here's how he makes all these connections. It talks about the geode. It mentions the levitation. The words that they read from the notepad is actually a incantation to summon or to open the gate. But then he also says they need a sacrifice, and he alludes the script itself is alluding to what could be possibly the dog,
right?
Because Terry says it could be an animal, and that's when we get to the boyfriend, or not the boyfriend, the guy who can't find a place to put the dog, and so he looks at the hole in the backyard. And then in the next scene, it shows him wiping his dirt off his hands. So he puts the dog in the hole, and Terry says something like, "Offering in the hole, it would have blown it wide open." So, you just kind of deduce that he put the dog in the hole, and now they're kind of fucked.
Right. So now I think the next step is that they have to, quote, seal the door.
Yeah, and they think that. So they go to the hole, Terry and Glenn, and they read this spell to banish them. But little do they know the guy already put the dog in the hole.
Right. That was before. Right. Yeah. That was before they had actually attempted to seal it. They didn't realize that the dog was in there.
Yeah, and it was pretty much.
And they thought it worked.
Right.
Because they picked up the gate, or sorry, no pun intended. They picked up that wooden. I know it's hard to say it's anything other than like a gate, and they picked it up, and the ground was completely sealed up. They think it's because of the spell worked, but it was actually the guy that sealed it up. Right. Whereas they were already screwed. The dog, the offering is now in the hole, and when they walk away from the hole, it shows the little latch, the little lock on the treehouse door or wooden gate. Moving, so you know that the threat's very much there, and they launch a toy rocket, and the thing I thought funny about that scene was that Terry was sitting there like reading from the Dark Book even after they think that the threat is gone, and Glenn and his sister are like not even listening to him, and he's just like reading aloud about demons. And I just thought that was funny. But after that, I think that's when all the pandemonium starts to happen pretty quickly. Yeah.
Gradually, yeah.
Because then, sleepover number 2 ensues. And
exactly, yeah. Those annoying friends are invited over when there's no reason they should be there, as I'll get into once we progress. But,
it's those sisters. I can't remember their names, but they're the worst people in the movie.
The Lee sisters, yeah. The most like inappropriate tools for comic relief that was not needed at all.
Right.
A lot of cheesy lines from those characters in scenes that are like totally serious. It's supposed to be really scary, and then you have them in there. It's just so out of place. Apparently, the gate is now open because the first sign of the threat we see is the
jar of
shadow,
moths, I guess, or the moths outside of the window.
We see the demon shadow on the wall, and then Glenn closes his shutters and it pulls back up, and then the window breaks and the moths fly in the room.
Right.
That's when it pretty much starts.
Man, yeah. This whole next 5 or 10 minutes is just where everything goes batshit.
Yes. Oh yeah, and we didn't really establish the moths. So the moths are significant because Terry was just putting them in a jar to experiment, which is a little twisted. Experiments on how long they can live without air.
And that was Terry that was doing this?
It was Terry that was doing it, but for whatever reason...
It was at Glenn's house.
Yeah, Glenn kept them in his room, even though he remarked how that's cruel. So I don't know why he would keep them in his room and not just let them go, which is what I would do, and I think most of us would do.
I mean, if that
yeah.
cruelty thought came through your head, sure.
Yeah, but why wouldn't Terry just keep it? I'm not sure. Oh, because then it would.
Because it doesn't.
The plot.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's a plot device. Sure.
All right. Yeah. So the payoff of the moths, they they break the window, or some kind of force breaks the window, and the moths. And the moths also die and then come back a few times. I remember. But
and I think one of my favorite
yeah.
scenes was probably the next one, effectively, because everybody's trying to wake Terry up from the bed. Because after the moths break the window, Glenn is freaking out, and his sister comes into the room, and they're like, "Okay, we gotta wake up wake up Terry and figure out what to do next." And they rustle the sleeping bag, and here comes Terry in from outside the room.
But there's someone there because it's moving.
It's Angus.
Yeah, it's a dead dog full of all this steam comes up, and what freaked me out about that is though, like when they were shaking it like there was someone moving underneath.
Right.
And Terry was standing behind. Like that was, I thought, like, my God,
I think that was probably the creepiest and most effective scene in the movie, with the exception of maybe the next little creepy tidbit, where they go downstairs and try to and open the front door, and the parents are home.
Oh yeah.
Don't forget before that, the giant hands from under the bed.
Right, because they're trying to leave the bedroom, and the hands start to come out from under the bed, and they grab the sister.
Get the sister.
This whole 10-minute stretch is creepy.
Oh God.
Yeah,
we haven't even
as soon as they pull the sheet and show the dog, it's just like beat after beat. Then the hands come out. Then they run outside. The door's all shut by themselves. Then they run out of the house and they see the parents.
You've been bad.
Yeah. Like, you honestly feel that relief when you're first watching it.
Oh yeah.
Once you see the parents.
Oh sure.
Just like you would when you're a child.
And then that little flip happens, and it's like, oh shit, that's not the parents.
I mean, it's that. Like I said, the dog, showing that dog like that, and everything that spirals after that, like that really set like the tone for that block of time where it was just like nonstop horror. So, yeah, the dad, like he said, he looks at him and he goes, "You've been bad," and his like face starts melting. It looks like melted plastic milk or something, like, and then it
flooding out of his eyes.
And his head falls off.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty creepy scene.
And then the mom's just going, like cackling. I thought that was funny. guess like the gate can get inside of your head. It can
It does whatever the fuck it wants, man. Like,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It
the
knows.
things it's using,
Right.
is it, I don't know, getting shit out of hell? Like, what is it? What is the gate of?
Is it of?
What's the gate?
It's well, the gate itself is just this passageway, but what's on the other side is this other, I guess, dimension with
I guess
evil
one could say it's hell.
yeah, it's like a
So Terry's mom
Right.
was in hell.
oh no.
Well, no, I mean, because
There's
keep in
moms
mind they're
just
talking about
Mhm.
they also used living parents.
But the mom's
You know.
dead, right?
Well, no, I understand that, but it was also
Just a
Glenn and
hallucination.
his sister's parents were also used here, and they were very much alive. So it doesn't mean that they were in hell, but
Yeah,
the,
those are
the,
they're
the,
just
the quote
apparitions.
demons or whatever. Yeah, it's an apparition, I guess. It's better.
Like the parents are away wherever they are. Those are just they're just mind fucking them, I guess.
Yeah.
So the parents, yeah, they run back in the house, and then the parents. Glenn looks out the window. The parents are gone, and they go down to the basement to get the spells, and creepy touch where Glenn looks at a family picture and it shows them all like gored and like bloody, except for Glenn. Did you see that? Any of you?
I didn't pick up on that.
I didn't either.
It's when they're going in the basement. He looks at the picture and then he says, "Ow." She says, "What?" And he goes, "Nothing." And then he just takes the flashlight away from it. But it showed the dad, mom, and Al bloody, and then Glenn was just okay. He was still normal. Which I don't know if that was foreshadowing in a way for later on, but they do get the spells, and then they just like burst into flames.
Yeah, basically
Like
just
the dark-
bursts into flames,
Yeah.
catches on, like spontaneously combusts.
Yeah, and then here's where most of the terrible lines come from the two sisters.
Well, there was also
First
the
they
melting
say-
phone bit. Did we get there yet?
That's right after.
Okay.
Yeah, so some of the two worst lines in this movie are the first the girls say, "Demons, what kind?" and and then they say like, "Well, like let's use the Bible then." They're like, what can we read in the Bible? And then the girls say, "We'll find something. We went to Sunday school." Oh my god. And it's just like it takes you out of the scene, honestly, but it's not too bad. But then they decide to go out in the backyard, and we're like first introduced. We're given that like definitive introduction to our demons.
The little
And-
demons?
Yep. Our
Which is quite possibly one of my favorite things about the movie. They're just running around, howl, howl, howl.
they do make a series of like low grunts and then just high squeals, like a pig or something. But they're these like 6 to 7 inch tall minion things. Kind of hard to describe. They're just
They were
Little
minions
demons.
before minions.
Yeah.
yeah. Kind of look like monkeys, but not exactly. I don't know.
Are they violent, or they? 'Cause it seems like they want to kill somebody, but they're too cute to do it.
No, they're pretty violent. I mean,
They bite.
I mean, they're. I don't want to say they're the most effective. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you could kick them. Right.
They're just
They're
like
Like,
little.
it's weird because like a lot of stuff in the movie came across, and this has been for years one of my biggest critiques about this movie is that like everything otherwise is so creepy, and then these guys are just like an annoyance.
They show up a lot though. They
Right. Like they're such a central figure
I-
in the movie, but they're just fucking annoying. They're not like they don't seem like they're real dangerous until later
They seem
when
like
well
Goombas from Mario.
Yeah. Minions, though.
Yeah. Goomba minions.
Yeah. So,
they're forever in my notes as little demons. I'm sorry.
yeah, that's the thing. They're not called. I'm like, which I'll get to later on. But in Gate 2, they say minions. So that's why I'm saying minions.
Okay.
I have
so
that
not just
bit.
actual minions for like. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. But that's
Human
not in this film. So I'll just say little demons. Yeah. But yeah, they show them, and they're kind of just like, Al doesn't see them, and they're really tiny, and they're just kind of walking around her, staring up at her, and then she runs back in the house, and there's like a group of probably like 12 of them or something running back up, and they are running up the stairs after her. They shut the door, and then that's when, like you said, the melting phone. What happens
it rings
there?
first, and they answer it, obviously. And on the phone, it's the dad again. You've been bad, and then it just bursts into flames and starts melting.
Yeah. Oh my god, I fucked up. It's after that where they go get the spell. Oh boy. Oh, Jesus Christ. All right, cut that out. 3, 2, 1. So it's when they actually use the Bible. I kind of mixed that up. It was after the phone thing is when they go down. Yeah, they get the Bible, but they go back outside, and they read from the Bible some kind of, I don't know, sort of banishing passages or something to will away the evil, and they're standing right outside the hole, and it seems to be effective. There's like the boards start to break, and this purple ominous light comes out, and then
stuff starts the smoke and whatnot starts getting sucked down into the hole,
right, and then Terry falls in. And
does he fall in, or is he pulled in, or is it kind of a combination of both? I kind of felt like he was pulled in.
Yeah, it was. Glenn kept telling him, "Don't get so close," and then Terry said, "It's okay.
I'm fine." Yeah,
and then but he still just fell in. I think like maybe the whole there was like some effort of both, maybe because like it showed the whole kind of gaping, or not gaping, but kind of what do you call it? Sort of throbbing, or opening and closing, and he fell in, and Demons pops up, and it just stares at him. It's really doesn't seem all that threatening, and then this other one runs up randomly and just starts biting his foot.
Yeah.
And then a whole bunch just come out after him. They're pulling on his leg to try and pull him somewhere back into the gate. And as he explains a little earlier, he says that they need two human sacrifices. So I guess that's one of the reasons why they're trying to take him in deeper into the gate. So everything seems, that Terry gets out, the hole closes up. Terry throws the Bible into the hole before it closes, and it seems to be real effective. You hear all these like death throes, like, and then everything's fine. They celebrate, and what's funny to me is they go back to the house, and then they find the two sisters are hiding, but then we're given a slight jump scare by these unwelcomed like male
Bros,
guests.
really. I mean,
Yeah.
the 80s equivalent of bros.
The sisters invited over, I guess, unbeknownst to Al, the sister. So Al tells them to leave, and like the sisters, after having literally seen a demon, they seem more concerned about like being rude to the guests by just kicking them out. You just saw some kind of literally a demonic being and
Yeah.
now you're just casually, like, I don't know, worrying about pleasing guests. But so there is, though, this moment of relief where, especially when you're a kid, you probably do think that it's over. That, just that break, that like mental break, and then the even the tone is very safe, very relieved. You could feel it, like, with the characters. You're very relieved. But then suddenly, when Glenn and Terry are talking, the wall just crashes open. And then we finally get to see it's the workman. He's real.
And then that's when Terry also admits, I made the thing up. Like, the workman's not even real.
Right. Yeah, the payoff to the workman.
Yeah.
And he wakes up and breaks, comes through the wall, and then he takes Terry back with him, and the wall seals up by itself, and Glenn remembers the 2 human sacrifices, and he realizes Terry is the first. So,
Well, actually, no. Well, there were supposed to be 3 sacrifices in total, and I guess Terry would have been the second sacrifice total.
Right. It was there's like an offering, which could be anything, including an animal, and then which opens the gate. But then there has to be, I don't know who wrote these rules, but then there has to be 2 human sacrifices to stay on Earth. Like, who made up those rules? Did the gate wrote that, or I don't know? Very specific.
The metal band? I don't know.
I guess it's in the Dark Book, and the demons, I'm assuming, wrote the Dark Book. I don't know. And at this point, the worker man is like very handy for the gate, because he does more than any of those little demons ever did in this movie. Because he then breaks out of the mirror and chases. He breaks out of Al's mirror,
right,
and chases Glenn and her. And in probably one of the coolest effects in this whole movie is she throws a radio at the workman's head, and then he just kind of grunts and falls over, and then it all of a sudden just breaks apart into a bunch of demons. And that was like, I love that part.
So one thing that
I just wish you did the Candyman grunt.
One thing that, and I don't know, maybe we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but one thing that kind of weirded me out about this was when they were hiding in the closet originally from the workman, and it's just like, oh yeah, we've got this gun. Like, where the fuck was this gun the whole time?
They established the gun earlier on, when just Glenn and Terry are just looking around in the closet for something, and Terry like grabs the gun and he says, "Wow!" and then Glenn says, "Put that down. It's my dad's."
Right. Okay, that was
yeah.
I had totally forgotten about that.
It's a brief scene, but I think that scene's more important for they show the Thunderbolt, which is this rocket that this kid that Glenn had.
Thunderbolt, I believe, was the name of the rocket.
Yeah. And so in that scene, they show like 2 crucial plot devices, I guess. But yeah, he turns into all the little demons, and it's in that scene, like, those are actually guys in suits, and they shot it in this forced perspective technique where, like, it'll show Glenn. So for instance, that the 2 actors, see if you can follow this. Like, it's kind of confusing, but they're actually up closer to the camera, and then like there's a separate sort of set piece underneath them that's like further away, that the people in the demon suits are sort of just like running around, and so it makes them look like they're smaller, and they're standing right in front of them. They're actually standing really far away in like another set piece down below Steven Dorff and the other girl and the girl. But sometimes it's claymation, but other times it's people in suits, and they use forced perspective.
Yeah, I actually
really...
kind of jumped to the conclusion that it was pretty much all claymation.
Oh, you would, yeah. It's a lot of it's just people in suits, and they do a really good job at making it look like they're just small, tiny. But so they run, outside the door, and then the demons are trying to scratch through it, and that's when Glenn goes to the closet to get the gun, and then this little like Terry demon pops out of this golf bag or the tennis bag, and it just starts biting him. And if you listen closely, he's actually saying, he's going, "Help me, Glenn, help me."
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, rewatch it and you'll hear it.
Great.
I found that out through a IMDb forum. Someone pointed that out, and I was like, no way. And you could totally hear it though. So the sister like stabs him in the eye with like a doll foot, like a foot of a Barbie. That made me cringe. Like I did not like that. Then here comes that pesky worker man. He comes out from behind the clothes, and he takes Al back.
All I can think about, like when he's walking very slowly, was the WCW Yeti.
I don't know why. This is the second time I've seen the Yeti referenced today. That never happens. And this is twice in one day.
That's really weird.
Wait, that happened at work today?
No, this didn't happen at work. This was just a friend of mine had posted something.
I feel like
and referenced the
about
Yeti.
the Yeti today at work, and I'm not sure why.
No, there's no way. I know we talked a lot about Cactus Jack today at work, but that's...
Bang, 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 bang!
I'm trying to, even though I did it after, so after the fact, I'm trying to figure out how I did it and the tone I did it to see if.
I don't think there's going to be anybody concerned that we're going to shoot up the place.
All right.
Next subject.
Yeah.
Don't want anybody losing their job.
Hey, Charles.
Oh,
take note of that and edit that out, please.
Yeah, I'll get it.
Knowing you're lucky to be like the one time your boss listens to the episode or something.
I'd be okay with that. Knowing my boss.
No, Leonard would be cool with it. Yeah.
He'd be like, "What is wrong with you, white boy?"
Yeah, edit that out too.
Yeah, edit.
Just this whole 3-minute stretch.
Yeah.
Bang bang.
Bang bang.
That too.
Bang bang.
So they shoot him in the face, actually, and it shows part of his skeletal structure. And then he takes Al, the sister, Alexandra. We've been calling her Al, but he takes her back in, behind the clothing, and then they're gone. And that's the second human sacrifice. So right after this happens, the floorboards. Okay, cut that out. The
floorboards.
Right after
floorboards.
I wasn't going to say anything about it, but
After this happens, the floorboards in the living room or the front room start breaking, and Glenn runs away from it, and there's just this large hole underneath, and then that's when we get the first look at the Demon Lord, which is this the mecha demon. Yeah, it's like this. It looks pretty cool, but it is dated. But
it's a very impressive. Voltron style.
Yeah, it's this thing with it's kind of snake type thing that The head looks similar to the little demons, but then it has all these arms, it has tentacles, and it's like claymation and I think some animatronics, but pretty cool concoction. But it looks at Glenn and appears to be like benevolent in a way, comforting to him, and it holds him up by his hand, and then it puts its hand on Glenn's head, and then it lets go, and then goes back down into the hole, and then just Glenn's thinking like, what was that all about? And then he looks at his hand, and there's an eye on it.
Yeah, I've got.
Well, how does he get the eye?
Hand-eye coordination is how I have that written in my notes.
How does he get the eye on his hand?
Demon Lord put it on his hand,
but how?
Because it was with its power. I don't know. It was holding his hand up, like it was holding Glenn's hand.
Yeah.
And then it just.
Have you not caught on yet, Nick? This is like an hour and a half long acid trip.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
But yeah. If you notice though, that eye hand thing is a symbol that was shown in Terry's album, but also it showed up on that doodle pad when the Geode put it on. You see it on there too, and then later on you see it like randomly kind of in like blood graffiti on the wall. Same thing, the eye hand, like when all this pandemonium is happening with Glenn all alone. So he looks out the window, Glenn, and there is all this black like dust bowl in the sky. There's all this smoke steaming, kind of evil protruding from the hole, and it looks like it's blackening the sky, and it's really loud. And it's a boisterous display, and it doesn't seem like, I guess we don't really know like what's going on outside of like just Glenn's yard, but do you think like people notice this, or they're kind of wondering
so many questions
what the hell is going on here
about this? Because we'll talk about this after the fact, because I do again have a lot of questions about like what happens after the events of this movie, and I know that there is a sequel. We'll get into that as well, but go ahead.
But yeah, it just shows that all this happening, and then the movie, you don't really know much beyond Glenn's house. The only time we go beyond his house is when the guy is looking to dispose of the dog, and other than that,
and Terry rocking out in the basement too.
Oh, that's right, Terry's house. Yeah. Other than that, it's pretty like one, stuck to one setting, claustrophobic in a way.
Probably helped the budget.
Yeah, it did. It definitely did. On a side note, I listened to the commentary about 8 years ago, and I remember they said in the script they were gonna have all kinds of different kind of demons, like bigger demons that were going to be going around the whole neighborhood, like terrorizing people, but budget constraints, they couldn't do that. Been interesting. So, Glenn then remembers something Terry told him about how to stop the demons, and it was supposed to be some kind of action or gesture that represented pure love and light. Something like that. And so, Glenn being a child, he gets the idea that he'll use his rocket, the Thunderbolt.
Now, was that given to him by Al?
They don't really, tell the story behind it. It's just, apparently Al... I don't know, because they say, oh my god, look, it's the Thunderbolt. And then Terry says she didn't throw it out. So and then maybe she told Glenn she threw it away, but then she's hiding it. Kind of like the scene in Kill Bill where the guy says he doesn't have his sword anymore, but he actually does. Michael, It's kind of like that. Am I joking? But But no, it is similar. So yeah, the Thunderbolt. I don't know if it was supposed to be Al's or Glenn's, but it's mentioned a lot in the movie. That's one thing we didn't really. It's all over that movie. So he decides. But it pays off because Glenn the Demon Lord appears again, and Glenn shoots it
And he's pissed.
into his chest.
He is fucking pissed.
He's pissed off.
Why? And what did you say when we were watching it? He could sense danger or something stupid?
Oh yeah, I'm guessing he thinks like he knows something's gonna foil his plans or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, he comes back up, and I guess Glenn was just waiting for him too, because otherwise I don't know what else he would think he's gonna do with the Thunderbolt. But he in a heroic cry, he says "Happy birthday, Al," and then he shoots it into the demon, and it kind of just like folds apart and then folds back up, and so you think, it's pretty lousy stop motion, but you think he just like swallows it. And then it actually turns out it affected him, so he starts to kind of like blow up from the inside, and he picks up Glenn, he throws him around. It's all very claymation, stop motion, and he drops him, and then Glenn like opens up the door and he takes one last look at the demon, and it blows up, and in this hilariously cheesy fashion he flies out the door flipping.
That was definitely one of the best parts of the movie as well.
Yeah. So then the blackness in the sky starts like waning, and it kind of all goes back into the hole. The hole kind of it seals up, and the house is completely trashed. But
Yeah.
Glenn walks in. After all, this is kind of a kid's movie. Everybody's alive, even the dog.
But how did the neighbors not realize all this is going down?
I don't know. If like obviously we can say well budget, but an in canon explanation, I don't know.
So I also have in the notes that the Glenn and Al's parents from that point forward always hired a babysitter.
Yes. I've wondered that. Yeah. I've always wondered. So, but the thing is, like, this is what I mentioned earlier about the dog. The dog comes back too. So I'm thinking if Terry and Al come back, the dog didn't die of natural causes. It was killed by the gate. Because if it wasn't killed by the gate, it wouldn't have come back.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking. So the dog's death was linked to the gate, and that's why the dog came back. Really bad line. Really cringy last line is when they're zooming out, and first Terry says, "You think they'll notice?" Which that's funny, but then Steven Dorff like pats both their heads and he goes, "You're my best friends." I thought, what?
I really wanted to see the parents' reaction when they got back.
You'll be disappointed.
Is that how the sequel opens?
Kind of. But that's the end of the movie. It shows the dog. It shows the dog kind of playing around where the hole was, and there's a new tree root growing. And it's a happy ending. There's no demon that pops back up, or there's no sequel bait. It's just, they decided to just end it. Most 80s films horror films end with like a sequel bait ending, so I would probably give this movie like an 8 out of 10.
I liked it. Yeah, that's fair.
It's kind of like the horror Goonies, I guess. There's a Goonies feel vibe to it sometimes.
I go 7 out of 10.
So I'm giving it a 7 only because of its creep / scary factor. If it wasn't for that, I'd give it a 6.
That's fair.
I'm kind of going back and forth in my head between like a 4 and a 6. Because there are a lot of problems with this movie. Like, the creep factor is there. Don't get me wrong. But there's also, again, there's the whole premise that, like, I think the target audience for this is, like, an 11-year-old. Like, you know, if I put on my, like, my kid glasses, yeah, this movie is like a 10 for sure. But, like, if I put on my adult glasses, it's definitely, it's skewed. The other... I have a question, and I don't know any of... So I've done a little bit of, like, the director's IMDb page. I've looked at that a little bit. I can't really... It seems like he's done some, like, family TV stuff, but I'm trying to figure out, is this, like, a Christian horror film? I'm saying that seriously, like, because the Bible won the day.
I didn't get the.
So does that mean that Terry is a Satanist?
Maybe. I mean, I know I like Terry, but I mean, I don't know if it's...
Only because his mom left his dad for a lesbian relationship.
No, she died.
And died from a cocaine overdose that she had while in the lesbian.
None of this is canon.
I don't know, because I didn't really get those vibes throughout the film. If it did, it's very subtle.
Well, the other thing...
The Bible didn't actually work, though.
Well, I thought the Bible was what ultimate... Well, I guess that's true. The Bible did kind of seal the... That's
what I'm wondering, though. I think...
One area, but...
I think they just tricked them. Because then...
But, I mean... I don't know.
The worker man came out of the wall.
That's true. But then I'm also kind of wondering here. Also, is like, are they painting heavy metal as good or bad? Because I know that, like, in the '80s, that could kind of go both ways. But they were definitely using the heavy metal stuff to their advantage, and then all of a sudden it burst into flames, and they kind of defaulted to the Bible. So I'm not really totally sure.
Oh yeah.
What the symbolism is like there? It's weird because, like, they kind of, again, go both ways with a lot of the potential. You
wonder, you wonder why didn't they make the Bible burst into flames? But maybe, it was too strong.
Oh yeah. Well,
that
might offend people.
There actually is a Christian movie called The Gate. It's like a different movie, but
yeah.
Does it star the guy from Growing Pains? Oh God, what's his name?
Yeah,
Kirk Cameron?
in every single one.
Oh, dude.
I'm sure he's in it. It's called The Gate: Dawn of Baha'i Faith or something.
There's a couple of gates actually on Amazon Prime.
We probably won't review those.
It'll be our new podcast slogan.
Wow.
We're the Gate Podcast now.
We review every single Gate movie out there, no matter what it is.
Yeah. Childhood favorite. The only one of the few films that like holds up in doesn't scare me anymore, but it creeps me out. So I used to watch Stephen King's It, the Tim Curry version, like that scared me, and then when I watch it now, it's terrible and it's not scary. So this movie still has creepiness factor. So that's why I gave it.
See, and this
8.
was the first time I saw it too, so I didn't even get to see it at the peak of the technology with the animatronics and everything. So it probably would have been even creepier then.
So it could have been like a 10 if you would have saw it the first time.
Yeah, in the 80s. If I was...
It was definitely creepy as hell the first time I saw it, and I don't know that I saw it when I was... Actually, I may have seen it when I was 11. I honestly do think the first time I saw it was probably early teens, maybe late, like the tween area, yeah. Back before they called it the tween area, I don't know, but
I hate saying tween. I just say preteen.
All right, we can edit that out. I mean, I don't care.
I'm talking about how that's like the proper usage or the proper term.
The
now for
nomenclature is now, yeah.
that. Yeah. Ugh, yeah, I don't.
Queens
Sounds
or
weird.
Queens?
Oh God, what?
Barely leaving.
No. There's. Please tell me that
Oh,
pre-tween is not a thing.
I'm being funny.
Twink.
No, that's a whole.
Yeah,
different So I have to ask, who actually was the one who suggested this movie? Was it you, Charles?
I don't
think
remember.
I might have, but I think I told Nick about it, and then he.
He just added
Officially
it.
suggested.
Okay.
I think this was still in the early stages where we were just recommending random movies, so we just threw in a list for like the first month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's The Gate.
So
I think
does
the
this
trailer-
round out our October movies?
Is that what?
Is that it for our October movies?
Yep.
So we should be jumping into months where we actually pick our stuff, like,
Like the Langoliers.
Oh yeah, Langoliers. Let me take away that.
because November. Whose month was November of picking the
Well,
movies?
we got messed up with that. With
Oh, real quick, before we jump into that though, because I do want to discuss a little bit before we jump into the next episodes.
So edit all that out, Charles.
Yeah. No, I got it.
So I do want to ask though. So Charles, have you seen The Gate 2?
I have. Yes. Talk
All right,
about
well,
the.
So do we? Yeah, go ahead. I mean, are we watching that, or are we gonna just go ahead and
no.
call it? No. Okay.
No, we're not gonna be watching that. Okay. Nick, just can you say like, or somebody say something like, so Charles, I understand. I was doing some research, and I understand there's actually a Gate 2. Have you seen that? Just someone do that
Okay,
on
I'll do it.
1, 2, 3, go.
So, Charles, can you tell me a little bit about the sequel rundown? I hear there actually is a sequel for The Gate.
Yes, yeah, there actually is a sequel. It's called Gate 2. They dropped the from the title, which, interestingly enough. I would think it'd sound better
So
as
it's
The
just
Gate.
It's just Gate 2?
Yeah, it would probably sound better as The Gate Part 2 in retrospect. But interesting thing about it is another thing is that title is The Gate, so it's Gate 2 Return to the Nightmare, which is on all the VHS and DVDs, but then IMDb lists it as Gate 2 The Trespassers. But I've looked up and down the net and still have not found any trailer, foreign, or any poster or cover art, whether it's here or foreign, that shows this subtitle. So that's a mystery for me. I'm guessing it was probably like a working title or screenplay title, but just a little tidbit. But returning is same writer, Michael Nankin, and Tibor Takakis, excuse me, the director, and the special effects crew. So you think it would be, have some promise to it, but it sat on the shelves for 3 years before it was released in Europe and then in the US. So a little bit of distribution hell it was in. And they made this film in an interview I saw. It said they made this with the intent of being different. They did not want to repeat the first film with the whole yet again and more demon pandemonium. So they definitely delivered on like a different premise, but it's the execution of it that matters. And personally, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this movie. My brother told me about it. I was almost, because I loved The Gate, and I was shocked to know there's actually a second one, and couldn't find it anywhere. But he told me about it, and it just sounded so off the wall. And my brother always did joke with me, so I said, "You're kidding me. Like that doesn't actually happen." And you'll see what I'm talking about. So Terry returns in this film. He's a little bit older. It's told through his point of view now, so you could say technically it's a spin-off too, as
I
well
guess
as
they
a sequel.
couldn't afford Deacon after Blade.
Well, this was before Blade. I think this was actually recorded in like 1990, obviously. So I do want to note, though, they did also refer to Terry as Terrence, apparently, in the movie. I did see that in the Wikipedia article for this.
Yeah, he calls himself Terrence now. He introduces himself as Terrence to certain characters. The only people who say Terry is his dad, which we are introduced in this movie, actually.
Is
Terry's
he as
dad.
cool as he seemed in, like...
He's a... no, he's a balding alcoholic in this film. Which,
Perfect.
yeah, and that goes into Terry's motivations, actually. So he goes back to Glenn's house, which is now abandoned and fenced off, and he decides that he's going to reopen the gate to use its power for his benefit, because he explains that the first time it happened, it wasn't just that, the problem wasn't just that they opened the gate. That wasn't the issue, but it was that they didn't do it right. Because apparently there's a more careful and safer way to open the gate to hell and not have anything go wrong.
How does it... Yeah, that doesn't sound suspicious at all.
Right. And to answer your question about the Satanism, there's actually a line in this movie where Terry says, Satanism is for pussies. So he's not a Satanist.
Maybe this isn't a Christian movie or series.
So he's trying to... So he goes back and he does this elaborate ritual, and we see Glenn's house. We even see the blood handprints on the wall still. So they're good on the continuity, but he's opening the gate in a careful and controlled fashion to summon just a special kind of demon, or minion now they call them, that looks like all the other ones from the first movie, but it's a special one that has the power to grant wishes. And he does this in order to wish for a better life for his alcoholic dad. So instead of encouraging him, although I know it's tough to do this, but encouraging him to go to meetings and get counseling, he decides to reopen the gate that previously almost took over the world and even sacrificed him at one point. But, like I said, he's doing it right this time, so nothing's going to happen. So, like, for instance, there's some other people that get involved in this movie. There's like a love interest played by Pamela Segal, who is the voice of Bobby on King of the Hill. And a few other dumb characters. They get involved in this situation, and they all start like wishing for material items. And this is the part I could not believe when my brother told me. He says the wish is like a pile of money or a car or clothing that they wish for. They kind of get a little greedy, and they actually turn into shit. Literally. I'm serious. After a while, they kind of work, and then they literally like dematerialize or something into a pile of crap. Movie. And I did not believe my brother when he told me that.
That's rough.
Yeah, it's strange. So Terry also didn't do his homework as well as he thought he did, because the genie minion, also can change you into a demon if it bites you. But what we actually see looks really cheesy and dumb and just really cheap. It doesn't look very good. So if you get bitten by it, 3 people in the movie get bitten, you turn into one of the 3 members of the unholy trinity that actually rule the underworld inside the gate. So I guess like the demon lord wasn't the ruler, it was just kind of the leader of the minions, but the actual rulers were these 3 demons that they call the unholy trinity. And so stupid, one of the characters turns into like a giant version of one of the small demons. He just looks like it's just a claymation monstrosity. It looks, you thought the Demon Lord in the first one had some problems. This thing looks awful, laughable. So another thing is that again, it sounds interesting, but it's really not. Is we get to see like some kind of interdimensional gate between like Earth and then the underworld. So it's not the gate, but it's like right outside the gate. It's like they call it the other side. We get to see that, but it just looks like a desert. And again, this is all because of budget constraints. They said that in the special features of this movie. So I guess I've kind of got to like take that into account. But there's this final battle on top of a stone altar thing where they're trying to kill the girl, and if they do, then that means so that's where the movie ends, and it's the most just after having seen The Gate and then like finding out about this movie and watching it after like 2 years of knowing about it, it was just the most like underwhelming and unimaginative movies I've ever seen. Just compared relative.
That's disappointing.
The effects are so watered down. There's just very little imagination to it. And the thing is, like, it sounds interesting from the premise, but because it is different. But it's good. And the funny thing is, we never do get to find out what happened when Glenn's parents came home.
Well, I mean, it looks like they just fucking took off.
Did they just die?
Right, but
I think they just moved.
No.
Did the gate kill him?
No.
Stop it.
Did they actually even address Glenn, really? I mean,
no.
In the sequel? Like,
no, they don't. They go
to the house, but they don't mention what happened to the previous tenants.
He kind of does. At the beginning of the movie, he's narrating and he says something like, he says, "There it is, Glenn's old house." And he's just like, "I've been staring at it for 2 years now." And then he says, he's like, "I've never talked about much what happened there. People wouldn't believe me." So apparently, that answers the other question. Apparently, like, the other residents did not know what happened. They didn't see, like we talked about, they didn't see all the black smoke coming up from the hole into the sky. Just changing the whole ecosystem, basically. They never, there's no indicators of those things. There's not really many answers.
Yeah.
But
so I did a little bit of
that's
additional digging on the career of Tibor Takasis. Is that what you said his name was?
Takakis.
Takakis. Okay. So it looks like a lot of what he's done has effectively been like direct to sci-fi movies.
Oh yeah.
In the recent years, the biggest titles that he's had include Ice Spiders, something called Mega Snake, a film called Rats, and then this one is my favorite title of all of them, Mansquito, which is apparently a take on The Fly. I have to acquire this movie and watch it for Bad Movie Night, because
somebody write that down, because I will forget it.
He did a 80s movie called I, Madman, which has a 6.0. That's not bad.
I'm sorry? It has a what?
A 6 out of 10 on IMDb. This movie called
That's really good,
Madman.
considering the name of it.
He's 80s horror.
So yeah.
That's The Gate. That's Gate 2. And,
yeah.
Good stuff.
You should be hearing this episode Halloween. So the movie we'll be doing next, a movie I have not seen. Surprise. Halloween 3.
I also haven't seen this.
Whose month is November?
Well,
I think we're just jumping around
yeah,
at this
we're
point.
Oh, okay.
I've kind of mixed things around. And if we don't change things, we might have a special episode weekend Thanksgiving.
Langoliers.
Oh fuck!
That is coming later.
That almost had to be a 2-part episode because it's so long.
Yeah.
It'll take me 4 days to watch that. I just like watch,
And then
45
another 4
minutes.
days to recover from watching it.
But possibly Devil's Rejects, as well as a movie that Kevin has begged me to put closer on the list because it is Thanksgiving. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I don't know. I think it's on topic for Thanksgiving. Because there's a bounty of food.
Dinner, yeah.
And then to round it out for the rest of the year, Ginger Dead Man in December.
Featuring Gary Busey as Ginger
And
Dead.
then this interesting movie that I don't think any of us have seen, Rare Exports, which is a Finnish movie about the mythology of Christmas.
Haven't seen it, but I know Nick recommended it, so I said, why not?
Yeah.
Have
is
you
it
seen it, Nick, or is this just something that it's been recommended to you for some reason, or?
It was recommended to me as a holiday horror movie.
Like Black Pete or something.
The hell is Black
don't know.
Pete?
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Black
Actually,
Pete. No. Okay, hang on. Black Pete is. Okay, it's like Saint. I don't know. It's Santa Claus's assistant who marks the houses of kids who've been bad. But yeah, it's kind of, he does look blackface-ish, so there's a controversy about it. But that's Black Pete.
Rare Export seems to have fairly good reviews, too.
Yeah, so I am looking forward to seeing Halloween 3, I believe is that Season of the Witch,
Yep.
also known as the one without Michael Myers.
Now, keep in mind, I did that on purpose because I want to see what a Halloween movie looks like without Michael Myers. And I also have not seen any Halloween movie aside from the one that came out in 2018.
So
My advice.
So, didn't somebody pick like Halloween 4 or 5 later next year?
It might have been at some point. Things have changed.
I wonder if we should just start at 1 for that case, so you can kind of see the backstory. For the Michael Myers, and obviously Halloween 3 is totally different, but
Well, I think there is a little bit of Halloween canon. I don't know. Is it Charles? I assume you've seen it.
Season of the Witch.
Season of the Witch.
Oh, Season of the Witch. Oh yeah, no, Season of the Witch. My advice would be to watch it as Season of the Witch and not Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Okay.
It's
So
not
it's a
Halloween.
completely unrelated movie then.
Yeah.
So I
That's
do know the backstory of Halloween. So
I'm
it's-
saying when we start the Michael Myers movies,
Oh, yeah.
we probably should start at 1.
Yeah. But I just
So
wanted
with
to
that in
throw
mind-
a wacky wrench.
If there's something with a lot of sequels, should we just start at 1 since we may cover other ones?
Oof.
Depends on
that-
depends on the
with
series,
the
obviously.
exception of Season of the Witch, yes. But
Yeah.
I would say also, I guess with that in mind, do we maybe want to start with House of a Thousand Corpses instead of jumping straight into Devil's Rejects?
Yeah, we could if everybody else is cool with it,
Yeah.
and
Isn't
then do that shortly after.
isn't
the
Devil's
sequel.
Rejects better than?
Yeah, but it's still a sequel.
See, we could do the 1 and then do Devil's Rejects a little bit later or something.
But like I did the schedule kind of like.
I got you.
Devil's Rejects. It was made to be seen as a standalone. It was there's no mention of anything from the first. They just
So you don't actually have to see House of a Thousand Corpses.
not really.
Okay.
They establish that these people are sick people and they're outlaws and they kill people in their house and
Yeah, that's
And,
fine.
the cops trying to chase them.
Okay.
Anywho.
Well, I mean, if it's standalone, I'm game.
Yep. So, thank you guys for joining us. See you guys next time. Oh, and Charles, we need a catchphrase. Throw out a catchphrase for us. What are we?
Taco Tuesday.
You're gonna pressure
You
me
got
like
demons.
You got demons.
All right.
Yeah.
Good night, Guatemala.